Welcome to Blind Abilities. This is Pete Lane. My guest today is Mike Kelly, and his story promises to evoke an emotional response on the part of you, our listeners. Hi, folks. This is Pete Lane. What you're hearing is my podcast interview with Mike Kelly, which was published on Blind Abilities back on January 3rd, 2019. That conversation focused on Mike Kelly, his life and times. Mike has experienced more than his share of hard times during his life. His strength and his perseverance.
This business had broken my heart. My wife dying broke my heart.
But like many of us, he found a lifeline.
I goofed around with a lot of different instruments, but by the time I was 16, I was into my bass.
And then the news.
I was stage 4 right out of the gate. For the past 3 years and change, I've been fighting.
And a closer look at his
I
life.
just got up again and kept going. I learned a long time ago that when life hits me hard, the best thing I can do is dig into whatever it is I want to do and just do it and not think about it.
That chapter ended on an upswing, and with the love and support of his wife.
I've had so much love from somebody. I walked into a coffee shop I frequent, and there's a little brunette with a guide dog in front of me.
He turned around and we started talking and realized that we had a lot in common.
And that unbelievable strength.
You have to carry on and just laugh. I mean, love conquers all, doesn't it?
We prayed, and we hoped. But as so often happens with this illness, he left us. Michael Kelly passed away on March 26, 2019. But his profound memory and legacy endure in the love of those same family members and friends.
Friendship just grew over the years, and he was a great friend to me.
We were best friends. I said, brother, we've been tied at the hip all this time. I ain't going nowhere. Whatever you need, I got your back.
Humbled and honored to have been with him for the short amount of time I got to be with him.
He has those kind of friends because he was that kind of friend.
Exactly.
In this podcast, we hope to memorialize that legacy. Please sit back and listen as we review his life, his music, and the love of his family and friends. I had the opportunity and pleasure to speak with Brooklyn and Mike prior to Mike's passing. I'd like to share some of that conversation here today.
I'm just trying to enjoy life at this point.
It's been good. It's been amazing.
Things are going pretty well here otherwise. Brooke and I have been having a great time.
We were able to go on a short little honeymoon. We went to Coronado after we got married. Coronado's an island right off of the San Diego Bay. We were able to go and enjoy ourselves thanks to a big group of people that were doing a GoFundMe for an alternative treatment that Mike was trying. So they were like, where are you going on your honeymoon? And we were like, well, we kind of want to go somewhere warm. And somebody suggested Coronado. Had some family come in, Mike's daughter from LA, and we had dinner with her and her husband, and so spent some good quality time with great friends and family.
Gone out and been about the town a bit, enjoyed getting out and doing what we all do, you know.
It's incredible, yeah. He's just like, let's go get coffee, let's go to dinner. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, let's go. It's been incredible, Pete. You know, just the energy that he has and the drive. He's really got a drive to go and such an amazing spirit.
Yeah, I follow you on Facebook, and every weekend I see Brooklyn Rodden is going live, and there's Mike and usually Michael Gregory along with him, Jimmy Morris. They're always either out at a club doing a gig or they're sitting around your living room just jamming. I enjoy those videos every single time.
I'm so glad that you enjoy them. Mike had his last gig out in January. It was a huge hit. We packed the place. They hadn't seen that many people there in a long time. And the Michael Gregory Band used to be one of their house bands all the time. It was one of their favorite places to play. It was beautiful.
Nobody knows where it all began. This kind of trouble between a woman and man. You know the nature of the great pain. You tell me you never want to feel that way again. And you don't want to hear a single word I'm saying. You cut me to the bone. Babe, you cut me to the bone. You know how to make a man feel numb the way you cut me to the bone.
Michael Kelly, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
And then every Thursday, it's the Michael Gregory Band that usually shows up at our house, and it's pretty amazing.
Wow, purple, hey!
It's basically just a time for us to get together and fellowship and for the guys to play music, and it's beautiful. It was amazing just to see that love in the room. As Jim Moore says, you're at the Kellys, this room is full of love. That's been incredible, just the bond between the musicians. One of the musicians says it just so sweetly. He says, you know, this is priceless. This is time that we just love spending with Mike. There's nothing like it. You know, that's what I want. I want people to enjoy the lovely sound and have it.
Now let's meet Mike's best friends up close and personal and hear about their relationship with Mike Kelly. Here's Michael Gregory, virtuoso guitarist and longtime friend.
I met Mike in 1989 or 90. I was playing with a group at the time called Mindwinder, and we hosted a Sunday night open jam session. Musicians would come and play. Number one, I could tell that he was not sighted, but yet he moved with such independence, with such ease and confidence. Then he got up, and he was clearly the best player far and away of anyone that got up and played with us. A few months later, I was playing with another band called Exciter. The leader of that band said, "Hey, do you know Michael Kelly?" I said, "Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, that dude, great." He said, "He's going to come in and sit in with us tonight." So great. And he sang. Not only his bass prowess, but his vocal abilities were on full display that night, and I was suitably impressed.
And then I landed this gig with Michael Gregory. Michael's a ridiculous virtuoso guitar player. He'd be embarrassed to hear me say that, but he's not here, and he has less palsy.
So Michael came around a long time before I did. They've just been friends a long time and played together and have a lot of history, just a ton.
I started hatching the plan to start my own band. I thought, who would my dream team be? And the first person I asked was Mike.
He actually moved to Nashville for a while, and so it was a big absence in Mike's life. And then Michael said, "Hey, I'm coming back to town."
And Jim Malone.
My name is Jim Malone. Back in 1992 is where I first met Mike. We were at a commercial music ensemble class, and we hit it off, started talking about guide dogs. And I said, you know, I was kind of thinking about that, but I didn't know quite how to approach it because I was a cane user at that time.
Jimmy Malone and Mike go way back, and they've been friends for a long time. They played together in mini bands, and they have such a special bond. Mike is the reason why he got his first dog, his first guide. He's great. He's one of the best keyboardists in Sacramento.
The musicianship was one thing. As a friend, that was a totally another thing. We kind of hit it off the bat, you know.
And good friend and writing partner, Jimmy Morris.
Writing together over the years, I'd have an idea, he'd have an idea. We'd call each other. I'd come to his house, and we would just hang out, plug in those basses, and make it happen.
And Pat Olguen.
My name's Patrick Olguen. I am a recording engineer. I own Velvet Tone Recording Studios in Sacramento, California. I met Mike Kelly when he came in for a recording session with the Michael Gregory Band, who he's a longtime bass player for. He just had this unnatural ability to play the bass like nobody else, and ended up just using him for a lot of session work after that. You know, when you've been working with somebody that long, you establish a bond between the engineer and the musician that you trust. So that friendship just grew over the years, and he was a great friend to me.
They had a great, wonderful relationship, and he's such a neat guy.
And here's Janan Cessna.
Whenever I had to drive anywhere, I'd call Mike Kelly up.
She's wonderful. She's very genuine.
He always said, "Thank you for falling in love and bringing Michael Gregory back to Sacramento."
She'd cook for an army and come over and we'd have a jam session. I mean, just always taking care of others, nonstop.
I met many friends when Michael first came into my life, but Michael Kelly made me feel welcome right from the very start. He could feel my heart. We just got along so well.
Jamie wants to be a star. She's not happy where we are, so we hate on her all the time. Don't want to see her leave us behind. Jamie.
Mike was an extremely talented musician and a master of the bass. Let's hear from his fellow musicians about his skills.
I did not have near the candle power vocally that Mike did. I would sing maybe one or two songs a set. He handled the lion's share.
A bit from my conversation with Michael Gregory.
Stylistically, we drew from everything, but primarily rock, pop, and blues.
We did feature 3 or 4 of those tunes on the previous podcast interview with Mike. Bad Hair Day was one. Boy, you shred on that one, Michael. Excellent stuff.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. And I saw that you had Circuit Rider on there, too. I had written that one part for Mike where he uses his right hand to tap on the fingerboard while he's playing with his left hand, almost like a piano player. So he's playing notes with his right hand while he's playing notes with his left hand.
Jimmy Morris.
My first time hearing the Michael Gregory Band, it was a 3-piece, and I'm listening to them play, and I said, wait a minute, Michael Gregory is soloing, but I still hear the chord changes and the bass line. So as I got closer to the stage, I could see Mike playing the bass line with his left hand. His right hand, he's tapping out the chords under Mike's solo. And it was flawless, but it sounded like they had a keyboard player up there with them or another guitarist playing those chords under Michael Gregory's solo. But it was Mike Kelly just standing there just like another walk in the park.
I could clap, I could tap. I've learned to play a separate bass line with one hand and play chords or a melody with the other hand on the bass. It started with the whole Eddie Van Halen thing, running the hands up and down the neck, tapping single notes. And what I discovered is that I could drop chords with one hand and play a bass line with the other, and drop the chords behind solos and things like that. And that was in the early 90s.
Jim Malone on the duo of Mike Kelly and Michael Gregory.
See, what cracks me up about Michael Gregory, see, Mike is so humble. He's kind of like this silent soul. When he does say something, it means something. But the minute you put that guitar in his hand, he's gone. With him and Mike, the both of them, you can't find no better pair.
I had seen him do that technique, and I said, okay, I'm going to write a section into one of my originals that features him using that technique.
Very rare, and one that I've never developed. I studied with Mike a lot. I tried it, and Pete, it's just not my lane. I never perfected it. But Mike could cover it just like it was nothing.
He used to make me mad. He'd be putting all these chords in there, and I'm saying, well, wow, why am I here?
It's hard enough for sighted players to do that because you have to look down at the fingerboard and find which fret you're supposed to hit.
Pat Olguen.
I was watching the video, and of course he can't see, so he was feeling his way back to his bass rig while he was playing the bass with his left hand and adjusting his bass rig with his right hand. Pretty incredible, and not skipping a beat, as if nothing was going on.
You know, there's different levels of musicianship, you know what I mean? Just as there's different levels of surgeons and race car drivers. Mike was at the peak of bass playing for years. He did the hard work, the studying, and he was a master on that instrument. He was unlimited. I would call him my personal bass guru because he could play anything.
He could go from funk to rock. Mike was sitting there listening to like the forbidden stuff back where he was growing up.
I had to be kind of a closet R&B fan. Everybody was into rock and roll, especially in the late 70s. But I was sneaking around listening to funky stuff on my own time. Early influences, Tower Power and James Jamerson.
A Motown icon.
I didn't know who he was at the time, but a lot of that old Motown stuff just really spoke to me.
Right.
It took me a long time to develop my ear. That was not a natural gift from me. I had a sense of rhythm from day one. If somebody could show me what the notes were, I could play it pretty well, even 3 or 4 months after I got myself a bass. Didn't have all the technique I needed, but if I had enough technique to get through the song, I could play it pretty rhythmically.
Jamming it, loving it, knowing that's what he wanted to play. And now look at him. He's so diverse.
A lot of people look at somebody having a disability like being blind as a liability, but I look at it as an asset in his case because when he was playing the bass, he wasn't looking at his fingers while he was playing. He was listening. He would actually intonate his notes. If something was a little bit flat, he would actually raise it as he was playing. And I think really automatic. That has a lot to do with tone and the way things sound. And he understood that. He had that natural ability to do that as well as just having the mechanical ability to play whatever you wanted him to play. It was pretty great.
Mike had a thing where I said, man, you could be a drummer too. He'd always take his right hand and pop his right hip to find the pocket. He'd go, okay, man, I hear the tempo. Then he picked up his bass. I gave him the simple melody. He enhanced it as he always did.
There are lots of people that can technically play well, but there's one thing that you cannot teach, and you either have or you don't by nature, and that is instinct. And Mike had deep and keen and strong instinct.
Shortly after I interviewed Mike Kelly in December of 2018, he convened an army of musicians and recorded a full album comprised of music which he himself composed along with great friend and co-writer Jimmy Morris. We've been featuring music from the album throughout the podcast thus far, but now we'll hear more about the recording of the music and the stories behind the songs.
Well, down the road here, I plan on releasing 10 songs. I've got about 5 of them in the can, ready to go. A lot of these songs have been recorded over the last 10 years. My writing partner is a guy named Jimmy Morris. He and I have been sitting around banging out songs for years. We throw some away and we keep some.
We first started the audio Wallpaper project almost 20 years ago. Our first initial thoughts of doing this.
The name of the project came from a joke I would make in the early days of the Michael Gregory Band. When we were out playing, we were an unknown entity. No one knew who we were. And I said, well, we're just audio wallpaper. Mike always loved that term.
I told Mike, I said, we got to finish this project. That's when we all decided we got to get it done.
Pat Olguen, the owner and engineer at Velvetone Studios, said, look, let's get as much of Mike's stuff cut as we can.
He told me exactly who he wanted to play on what songs.
Of course, Jimmy Morris was on the album.
Jim's a great R&B singer, excellent performer in his own right.
And Michael Gregory.
There's also Mike Gregory from, of course, the Michael Gregory Band. He's playing guitar for me on a lot of these tracks, virtually everything he's on.
And Jim Malone.
There's James Malone. James has got a couple albums of his own out.
And many more talented musicians.
I've been using different drummers on different tracks. Tom Monson was on the last couple of tracks, and I've used drummers from other bands I've played in. Oh, Darius Babazate on saxophone. I used him on 2 cuts.
It was a lot of fun. Those sessions were great. We knew Mike was very sick, and we knew we needed to get him in here and finish up this record. And I knew he needed to be as comfortable as possible because he got tired very quickly, and I just wanted to make it as comfortable as possible for him. So I actually set up an isolation room for him with a nice fuzzy couch, set up his bass setup in there.
There's a room in that studio, one of the ISO booths that Pat has, that we want to call the Mike Kelly room. He would take that bass, and if he's laying down, he was playing with his bass on his chest.
Late December of 2018, we set up some sessions. There were 3 sessions that he did. We brought in everybody that he wanted to play with, and it was fun. Just a lot of creativity going on. It was pretty relaxed. Worked out great.
It was very inspirational. I think he got what he wanted to get out of it.
I have to tell you, Pete, I've been playing for nearly 50 years now. In all my experience, I've had really high highs, got some of the biggest career goals I ever wanted to establish. None of it means a fraction to me of what it meant or the depth of enjoyment, just pure enjoyment that I had in these sessions that we did for Mike, because everyone was there because they loved Mike, loved what we were doing, and wanted to be there. And I went, man, this is why we started. Remember this when we were like 12, 13 years old in the garage, and it returned all of us to that purity. That makes it invaluable.
It was so neat to watch all this stuff happen. And now there's some great stuff. I'm so excited.
Because of that relaxed atmosphere and that unity of purpose, we were able to get quality work done in a surprisingly short amount of time.
He would practice to perfection. And when we got to the studio, he would just lay it down. Mike was always one take with his stuff, especially the solos, because he could just feel them.
He knows what he wants to do. He was a pretty deep thinker as far as knowing what he wanted and being prepared when he came in the studio. Everything except for his solos. I think his solos were pretty off the cuff, and he would come in and play those.
Yeah, that one jazz thing, I hadn't heard that cut till the day we got into the studio. I went, Mike, this is great. He wrote such a wonderful piece. Jimmy Malone, the keyboard player.
Yes, I did that one.
I said, okay, Jimmy, you just raised the bar. I really got to come with it. It's wonderful. And it showed another facet of Mike's depth that was little known.
Oh, the jazz tune is incredible. Euphoria, Mike wrote that entirely by himself. Yeah, he played upright on it. Was just incredible. He was proficient on upright and electric. I mean, 6-string, 5-string, naturally 4-string. Any upright bass, he was a bassist.
He just thought in unique ways beyond just I'm the bass player and what that traditional role is. He really was into emancipating the instrument.
A couple of cuts on the album are just absolutely gorgeous, melodic. First of all, the cut that Mike sings on called Antique Dream.
Seems as long as I remember, I've had this one thing on my mind. Still, the longer that I do this, the less I have my pride. It seems a pointless way of living.
Yeah, that beautiful high tenor.
Disappointment at each door. An antique dream that I am living.
And yeah, Jim Malone on that keyboard.
Yes, played on Antique Dream.
Brooklyn on Jim Malone.
My favorite, I would say, with Jimmy is Antique Dream.
He wanted a Herbie Hancock type feel. You know, it almost took me 2.5, maybe 3 years to do that song. I had been in the studio, I think back in 2003. I couldn't find the right stitch. And so we had a chance to actually play Antique Dream on stage. We also had a chance to play Stitched Up. Mike was singing that John Mayer type style of singing, and somehow those two songs married. That's the style he wanted, and Herbie came out on that song too.
Oh, he can make that piano sing. I love the way Jimmy plays. He's great.
Mike was saying, I was going to name the album Touching Bases, but as it turns out, there's a track on there called Touching Bases.
Yeah, that was the very first tune that we collaborated on 12, 13 years ago, Pete. I had the melody and the bass line already written, but I didn't have the bridges, the transitions written. We hooked up at his house, sat down with both of our basses. We were just two peas in a pod, Pete, when it came to picking up our instruments and playing together. And that song came together. That was our very first collaboration, and it means a lot to me. Mike could he'd comp chords. There's a song on the album titled Audio Wallpaper. It just showcases his tapping.
He was able to pull notes out and strum. I mean, if you listen to Audio Wallpaper, where it's just him and another bass player, he's all over the place, almost like a classical piece. I mean, that's the only way that I can put it. Amazing piece of music.
It's incredible.
I know that song. Was that all Mike?
That's all Mike Kelly and one of his students. You know, Mike is a teacher, but that's Mike doing all of the tapping, all that intricate tapping and the harmonics and everything. That's all Mike Kelly.
Now, Jimmy, Mike talked about what an absolute phenomenal R&B singer you are, and just with the two cuts I heard, Wondering Why and the Smile track on the Audio Wallpaper album, I would have to agree.
I've been wondering why you never call me. Though I sit by the phone, I know you will dog me.
Now, you've got your own band in Northern California called Mercy Me.
Yeah, Mercy Me is a award-winning band here. We've been active here in Sacramento over 25 years. R&B, folk, top-notch vocals. I'm the bass player, and I sing to kind of fill in.
Sooner or later, I knew I'd find you here.
My wife is the lead vocalist. She gives me vocal lessons all the time. And we've been married 40 years. If the Lord let us live to see it, this coming New Year's Eve, we'll be married 40 years. Her name is Julie Morris.
Try again, it's up to you. It's your dream. It's your dream. Whatever it takes, just be yourself. Be yourself. Don't give up, no matter what.
I worked with Mercy Me and I worked with Julie Morris, Jim's wife, on 2 CD projects. One project is called Shoot for the Moon. And in fact, Mike played on that one too, the title cut.
And the song Smile, which features Jimmy Morris on vocals. It's just a beautiful melody, absolutely gorgeous.
Mike started playing this riff for the bass.
That incredible bass line Mike created.
And he started making up a song about Kai, the seeing eye dog.
Beautiful German Shepherd. He was actually singing lyrics about Kai to this incredible bass line, you know. And I said, man, that bass line is incredible, Mike. I said, we should get serious and write some lyrics to that. Finally booked a session with Pat.
Well, they were sitting in the studio, and Jim's like, man, play that riff again. Mike's like, all right, so he's playing it. And Jim starts writing this song.
Open my eyes this morning, and the sun warmed me to my soul. This whole world keeps on turning.
Mr. Morris, he's always coming up with these, I don't know how to describe it. His ideas flow right along with it.
I'm gonna share a smile with somebody today.
From the original conversation in his living room, I wrote the first little verse. It kind of came to me. But sitting there watching him play it in the studio, the second verse came to be, and it was so organic.
Even when the dark clouds are rolling, I know that they are just passing through. So I hold on until a new day, and you will surely hear me say to you, it's a beautiful.
I'm looking at my dear brother there. He's playing flawlessly, but his body is failing. It just struck me. Even though these dark clouds roll through, you know, they're going to pass through, and we're going to have another beautiful day. I'm not sad. He's not sad. It's a beautiful day to be here.
Coming my way. It's a beautiful day to be here. Nothing but blessings are coming my way. It's a beautiful day to be here.
The song is called Smile.
I'm gonna smile. Yeah.
He spent a lot of time studying that tune, and then this is what I like about him and why I like working with him.
And it talks about how Jim's going to smile for his brother and his sister today, and he's going to be a blessing on someone and let the sunshine in. And that's Mike and I.
It just came together real organically, just out of natural feeling.
Jimmy just started freestyling and flowing it.
When we played it back originally in the studio, we were thinking about putting background vocals on it and doing a full production. And I said, you know what? In that room with Mikey, this song feels complete. So we're going to leave it just as is. Just let those lyrics stand as they are, because they just came directly from my brother to my heart on that pen and pad. And it was just a beautiful thing.
And I can't get through that song without crying.
I did a piano part, and then I brought the tracks here to my home. I have a Hammond B3, and I put a B3 part on there.
The guitar solo on there, I had my guitar, I brought my gear, and I went, you know what, guys? My sound, it's not right for this song. I got to find something. I started grabbing every guitar off the rack at Pat's studio, and then it was this jazz box, and it was just the right voice for that song.
Everything just kind of melted together. What I really liked about it. Thought it was very remarkable what he came up with. And it was really fitting with what was going on at that time with Mike. Kind of gave it a really positive feel.
That is an anthem, and as great as all this stuff is, far and away my favorite, just because of the mood and the atmosphere it represents.
Out of all the things we've recorded, Smile is my favorite. It is my favorite.
That's my favorite.
I'm just so glad the Lord gave us the time to finish the last couple songs that we had on our plate. And Pete, again, he played flawlessly. He would literally lay down in between takes. That's how weak he was. After he got his energy back, we'd lay it down and he'd just play flawlessly. It was amazing. Strong as a bull. Strong as a bull.
On April 28, 2019, a celebration of life was held to which dozens of family members, friends, and fellow musicians came to show their love and respect for Michael Kelly. Here's Brooklyn.
It is a celebration of life. Lots of music, lots of stories, and lots of laughs. And we're all just going to put one big old party on for Mike. We're just ready to have a good time because he would not want any of us to be sad. He just would want us to have a great day and smile a lot.
And Mike's stepdaughter, Holly Watson.
Hi, I'm Holly. I'm Mike's stepdaughter. Mike's been part of my life my whole life, really, because he and my mom, Becky, got together when I was just a few years old. I think what I've thought of the most is that there are certain aspects of Mike that have really kind of stayed the same as long as I've known him. And one of those aspects was a genuine sweetness and kindness that maybe he didn't express as much around musicians, but that as a child he certainly showed to me, and then that he showed to my children, and which I'm always very grateful for. And then the other aspect was his humor, which everyone knows about and has talked about, and was always one of my favorite things as a kid. And I know my children got to enjoy his silly songs that you played, and that's what caused them to lose it earlier. And then the other thing about Mike is also how much he actually was open-minded enough to change in a lot of other ways from when I was a child, which is not an easy thing to do. And if only more people in the world could do it, we would be, a lot better off. So I'm grateful for all the memories and for you for sharing all the memories with me. Thank you.
And Pat Olguen.
For those of you that don't know me, I make my living as a recording engineer, and I'm currently working on the Mike Kelly Project CD. I'm not used to these things being in front of me. I'm used to being behind these things and recording people, so this is a little weird for me. It's payback. I met Mike in 1993. We were both in our 20s. He came in with the Michael Gregory Band. That was a fun day. I met some amazing people that day, and I met a lifelong friend who's Mike Kelly. Me and Mike started spending a little bit of time together just recording his songs and recording other people's songs. That eventually grew into meeting for coffee. We talk about life in general, politics, exotic cars, you name it. I learned a lot about Mike in those coffee shops.
And of course, Jimmy Morris.
One last musical ode to my brother.
All right, hey, let's go find you a soda.
Oh, the night is golden, and the sun warmed to my soul. This soul keeps on turning, and I'm a roll with it until I'm gone. It's a beautiful day to be here, and I'm gonna share a smile with somebody today. It's a beautiful day to be here, and I'm gonna smile. God bless you, Michael.
Also among the many speakers and performers was the Mercy Me Band, featuring Julie Morris on vocals.
I just would say thank you to everybody for their love and support, the cards and messages, and I'm very grateful. Thank you.
As you've heard, we've featured quite a few tracks from the album Audio Wallpaper, but the process for publishing all of those tracks is still in the works. As of the time of the release of this podcast, there are 2 tracks available for purchase or for streaming on all of your popular purchase or streaming locations. I'll feature a couple of excerpts from those tracks here. The first title is Me and Mr. Miller. And the second title is Hidden Treasure. There's a little story, of course, behind that title. Pat Olguen, the owner of Velvet Tones Studios, ran across this track on a backup hard drive that was actually recorded back in 2003 by Mike and several other musicians. Certainly a fortuitous find and a fitting title. So be sure to go out to all of your popular purchase locations, iTunes, Amazon Music, and all of your streaming services, and listen and purchase these 2 tunes. Also keep an eye out as the other tracks are released for purchase or streaming. Again, the name of the band is The Mike Kelly Project, and the name of the album, Audio Wallpaper. And finally, some closing words from Mike's loved ones. I hope they bring a smile to your face.
We were all out there playing in his living room, and Mike says, I want to play. And he grabbed this bass, and he played. It was one of the most touching things, because that was the last time I saw him.
And I loved to cook for him. When the band would rehearse at his house, I'd send sliders, I'd send enchiladas.
She sent me with food every rehearsal.
In Brooklyn, what a strong young lady she is.
Mike is very lucky. He's had amazing and really wonderful friends. You can't get a better group of people. Jim Morris comes over on a daily basis to check in with Mike. Doesn't matter how busy he is.
I said, brother, we've been tied at the hip all this time. I ain't going nowhere. Whatever you need, I got your back 100%.
How beautiful her heart is, how she constantly sought to surround Mike with love and music.
There's friendships you'll never let die, you know? I mean, that's what's so incredible, right? You hold on to the dear people.
We hugged her, and the first thing we said to her was, you really showed what you are made of.
He always was trying to make people laugh. When he'd walk into clinic, he walked in and they're like, what's your medical record number? He's like, my chemical experiment number is. And the staff would just, they can't say anything. They can't laugh, you know, and they don't know how to take it. Just ready to roll and just make the best of it. Or we'd get on the light rail and people would be like, oh my God, it's a dog. He's like, yeah, it's a dog, not a mountain lion. His storytelling and his ability to talk politics, to talk current events. He was a walking dictionary.
Learned so much from Mike Kelly. Has nothing to do with music, just lessons of the heart and strength and this life and just putting everything into perspective.
Pete, most people, when they see that somebody's sick, they're here for a while and then they kind of drop off a bit, but nobody's dropped off. Everybody's been here every second, and they still are.
I walked into a coffee shop I frequent. There's a little brunette with a guide dog in front of me. My dog says hi to her dog.
We just kind of started talking.
I'm marrying Brooke on Friday, actually.
He proposed to me in October. We just wanted to make it simple and sweet and intimate.
Michael, do you take Brooklyn to be your wife? Yes. And Brooklyn, do you take Michael to be your husband? Yes. I now pronounce that you are husband and wife.
You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that knew Mike say something negative about him. He impacted everyone positively during his walk on this earth.
We love her.
Yeah, we love her so much. She is family. We told her,
Yep.
You will never be without. You'll never be alone. We just pray that there is capacity in her heart to love again and find someone who will take care of her like Mike did.
I really loved and respected, I still do, love and respect Mike Kelly. And I call him my brother not because it sounds good. That's real. That was my brother. Love that cat with a passion, man.
We were best friends. Friendship carries on with Brooke. She has to get through the stage.
He loved Brooke with a passion. She took care of him. She was on the front line. I was on the second line. It was a love story to the end. Till he departed, she had his back and he had hers.
That's who Mike Kelly was.
Right.
He had these fabulous people in his life because he was a fantastic man. I'm just humbled and honored to have been with him for the short amount of time I got to be with him.
He has those kind of friends because he was that kind of friend.
Michael Gregory called me about 10 minutes after he passed, and I ran down there. He had a lot of family and a lot of friends around. She had a great guy. He was loved by a lot of people. He was an amazing talent. I don't know anybody that didn't smile when they heard him put a bass track down on their song. He was just an amazing person, and I hate to be cliche, but that old saying, only the good die young, that was Michael. That summed him up in one sentence easily. I spent a lot of time with him in the studio and a lot of time with him outside the studio. I think a lot of people didn't really realize how close our friendship was. We met up for coffee a couple times a week. I'm just really going to miss that. It was part of my routine, and now that's gone, so going to be some lonely days at the coffee shop for me.
Mike Kelly was and will always be the love of your life. No matter what you do, always remember the good times that you had with him, and be strong for him and be strong for yourself.
We wrote a song called Change, Pete. There's a line in it that says, time will reunite us, I just can't say when. That would sum it up for me, my feelings about my brother and the positive stuff that he left here behind.
He would just make people smile, His smile brought a smile to everybody. My line for the podcast at the end, I feel so cheesy. I'm like, Pete, love conquers all, doesn't it? I'm like, so cheesy, but...
It worked.
And it is working. Love does conquer all.
This concludes this podcast, a memorial for Michael Kelly. I would like to thank the following participants for contributing to this podcast: Brooklyn Rodden Kelly, Michael Gregory, Jimmy Morris, Jim Malone, Pat Olguen, and Janan Cessna. Thanks to all for taking time out of your busy day to share your remembrances of Mike Kelly. On a personal note, I would like to add what a pleasure it has been for me to produce this podcast. Meeting Mike, talking with Brooklyn on several occasions, and speaking with all of Mike's friends and fellow musicians has certainly been a fulfilling experience for me. Once again, remember you can go to iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, and many other music outlets to purchase one of the first 2 tracks that have been released from Mike's album. Those 2 tracks are Me and Mr. Miller and Hidden Treasure. I'd like to thank all of you for listening, and have a great day. For more podcasts with the blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And be sure to check out our free app in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store.